Joining us now is the man who may have had the most memorable moment at the Republican National Convention, Madison Cawthorn, the Republican congressional candidate in North Carolina's 11th District. So, Madison, 4 days have gone by. We've officially seen what the Republican Party has to offer for the American people. So I want to ask you, how do you think the party did in making its case to the American electorate?
I think they did a great job of painting a picture of the choices Americans have to make. You know, we can choose a party who wants to just destroy our country, or we can choose a party who wants to rebuild, who wants to take us into the future with everyone included, the party of truth and freedom. You know, I feel like the Democrats, their entire purpose for running this election right now is because of Donald Trump. I think every single speech they had just spoke about Trump, 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 whereas the Republicans, all we did was talk about the future, how we want to move forward, how we want to be better. And I think that's something beautiful. I think the Republicans have done a great job of doing that.
I think you bring up an interesting point, and it's the idea that so much of the Democratic platform is anti-Trump that they sometimes miss what the actual voter cares about. And I think that the Republicans really did a good job on capitalizing on the fact that most Americans are proud of their country. Most Americans see that there is an optimistic future for the country, whereas that same message wasn't necessarily conveyed at the Democratic side. It was a little bit more bleak, a little bit more of issuing a warning of what were to happen if President Trump were to have another second term. But you had a very memorable moment at the RNC. In fact, we just showed a clip of it before the interview of you rising from your wheelchair saying that you're going to stand up for not only what you believe in, but quite literally standing up as well. So I want to ask you, what was the message that you were trying to convey with that moment, but your speech more broadly as well?
Well, in that one moment of standing up, you know, I very carefully made sure that my friends actually came onto stage with me to help me rise to my feet as a picture that we're all in this together. All of us as Americans will lift one another up, and we will rise to heights that were hitherto unthought of. And so I really believe that the Republican Party and the American as a whole, our spirit is one of overcoming. It's one of moving forward against any obstacle. And that's the message I really wanted to convey with standing up. But, you know, in my message, I really wanted to convey to dining room politics. Alex, you know, what you're talking about is that it seems like the Democrats have lost touch with the average American. You know, it's no longer the party of JFK. But I have an older brother who's got 4 beautiful daughters and my sister-in-law, and they're great parents. It's a great family. I care about the issues that actually affects them when they're sitting around the table. They want to make sure when they put their daughters to bed that they're going to be safe, that they can send them to a good school, that they can pass them a future they can be proud of, something that they can inherit that is good. And you know what? That's the thing that I think we need to focus on. I think the Republicans did a great job of, you know, not espousing the same talking points where we're just trying to talk about incremental GDP growth at the end of a half-decade period. You know, we talked about things that real Americans are actually going through. It was one of the most diverse Republican national conventions I've ever seen, and I think that was something that really included all of Americans. Because, you know, especially in the House and Congress, it's supposed to be a cross-section of the United States. And you really do not see that on the side of the Democrats. You know, they like to say we're the party of rich old white guys, when really I think that's them.
No, and you bring up another excellent point, and it's the idea that right now it seems that polarization is what a lot of people in politics like to focus on. But I saw something this past week in particular, a very real overt effort to reach out to people who may be independents, moderates, who may not necessarily be diehard Trump supporters or diehard AOC supporters, whatever it may be, people who just want the best for their families, as you bring up right there, those kitchen table type items, whatever helps put money in their pockets and helps keep people safe. And I feel like that's what this whole election is shaping up to be, is the idea of maybe the Democratic Party isn't looking out for the safety right now as we see what's taking place on the streets. So when it comes to the idea of unrest on the streets and defunding police, things of that nature, do you think the Democratic Party is eventually going to take a shift and start condemning that action as they start recognizing that it may not be politically advantageous to defend what's happening?
Absolutely. You know what? I think Don Lemon, he issued a warning to Democrats saying, hey, it's starting to show up in the focus groups. It's starting to show up in the polls. We can no longer support these violent riots. And, you know, it's sad that the only time they're going to speak out against these riots, which have destroyed so many people's livelihoods, which are not insured, by the way, is something, the only time they're going to speak out against them is when it hurts their pocketbook or hurts their future. The Republicans have been denouncing this violence and these riots from the very beginning because we actually care about Americans. We don't just care about talking points. We don't just care about making sure we can get elected next cycle. No, We actually care about Americans. And I think the American people see that, and that's why we're going to see a red wave in November.
And they also see what's happening in their communities as well. You bring up the idea that some of these businesses that are being looted and completely burned down to the ground in some instances, those are some people's livelihood. That's some people's way of making a living, taking care of their family. And just because that some people may say that they are insured, although there is a big debate to be had of whether that's true or not, that doesn't mean that it's okay to burn down and reset someone's life on that nature. And I think people across the country, whether it's Portland, Minneapolis, Kenosha, Wisconsin, are starting to see that firsthand for themselves. And I think that you made that very clear in your speech, and I think the rest of the Republican Party was effective in making that message as well. But for our viewers, before I let Madison go, you can learn more about his campaign and his agenda and what he's doing at MadisonCawthorn.com. Madison, once again, brilliant speech earlier this week. I'm going to be looking forward to your campaign the rest of the season. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Alex, always a joy to come on your show. You're one of the best, my friend.
I appreciate it, Madison. Take care.